So hi guys, in today's video we'll be looking at human capital formation in India, and in this chapter we'll be learning the concept of human resource, human capital formation and human development, the links between investment in human capital, economic growth and human development, the need for government spending on education and health, the state of India's educational attainment. Okay, beginning with uh, the thing of one factor that has made a great difference in the evolution of mankind. Perhaps it is man's capacity to store and transmit knowledge, which he has been doing through conversation, through songs, and through elaborate lectures. Okay, it is his ability of understanding the concept and conveying it to you. Like, say, I am reading this chapter and I am trying to explain the things to you guys. So, this is kind of a human nature or human ability. Okay, education is sought not only as the confers a higher earning capacity on people, but also see education is not about employment or not about revenue generation. Okay, but also other highly valued benefits. It gives one a better social standing and pride. It enables one to make better choices in life. It provides knowledge to understand the changes taking place in society. It also stimulates innovations. Moreover, the availability of educated labor force facilitates adoption of new technologies. Economists have stressed the need for expanding educational opportunities in a nation as it accelerates development process. So we are looking into human capital. So there are two sources mainly of human capital. We will look into it. See, before that, we need to look at societies need sufficient human capital in the first place. Okay, in the form of competent people who have themselves been educated and trained as professors and other professionals like engineers, farmers, teachers, students. All these people are part of human capital. Okay, in other words, we need more human capital to produce more human capital. Teachers in turn create teachers, or engineers they teach other, or engineers who learned engineers and who become professors, they teach students to become new engineers. Okay, this kind of human capital is needed to produce other human capital. This means that you need investment in human capital to produce more human capital out of human resources. Okay, now let us understand a little more of what human capital means by posing the following questions. So what are the sources of human capital? Is there any relation between human capital and the economic growth of country? And the third question, is the formation of human capital linked to a man's all round development, or as it is now called human development? Okay, what role can the government play in human capital formation in India? So, all these questions will be answered in the coming sessions. Okay, in this chapter only. Okay, now first we will be looking into the sources of human capital. Investment in education is considered one of the main sources of human capital. There are several other sources as well: investment in health, on the job training, migration, and information are the other sources of human capital. So, we'll explain all these things in detail. Okay, and when we look into it, like education, health is also considered as an important input for the development of nation. See, if a sick labor without access to medicinal or medical facilities is compelled to abstain from work, and there is a loss of productivity, he cannot work, and on that day the products are not made or his input is not given in the firm. Hence, expenditure on health is an important source of human capital formation. Okay, preventive medicine, vaccination, curative medicine, medicinal intervention during illness, social medicine, spread of health literacy, and provision of clean drinking water and good sanitation are the various forms of health expenditures. Health expenditure directly increases the supply of healthy labor force and is thus a source of human capital formation. Now, firms, when we come to industry, firms spent on giving on the job training, okay, to their workers. This may take different forms. One, the workers may be trained in the firm itself under supervision of skilled worker. Two, the workers may be sent off campus training. In both these cases, firms incur some expenses. So firms will say after the training, the people need to stay here and work for the firm for some time. After that, they can go to another company if they want. Okay, now we will look at migration. People migrate. How is a migration related to human capital? People migrate in search of jobs that fetch them higher salaries than what they may get in their native places. Okay, unemployment is the reason for the rural urban migration in India. Technically qualified persons like engineers and doctors migrate to other countries because of higher salaries that they may get in such countries. Migration in both these cases involves cost of transport, higher cost of living in the migrated places, and a psychic cost of living in strange social cultural setup. The enhanced earnings in the new place or outweigh the cost of migration. Hence, expenditure on migration is also a source of human capital formation. So even though these expenses are there, you are getting well paid job or you are getting a lot of returns by migrating to other countries. So the capital formed in that area is huge or better than what is in the native place. So it is also a source of capital formation. Now, people spend to acquire information relating to labor market and other markets like education and health. For example, people want to know the levels of salaries associated with various types of jobs, whether the education institutions provide the right type of employable skills or at what cost. This information is necessary to make decisions regarding investments in human capital as well as efficient utilization of acquired human capital stock. So, you need to, in the case of migration, let's take an example. Even before you are going into other countries for say education purposes, you need to have a proper research. You need to know whether the university that you're going can provide you with a better life opportunity or a better job. All these aspects need to be looked into by ourselves. Okay, that aspect need to be looked into by our own means. Okay, and when we come to physical and human capital, I will just grasp you in a few minutes. Uh, it's basically physical capital means the machinery involved in a factory. Okay, even the machineries are and they are operated by a human capital, a skilled worker. Okay, and suppose say the company space or spends a lot of money in helping the worker to be skilled in how to operating the machinery, how to operate the machine. All these things are spent the on the skilled worker. And if the skilled worker goes, it is too hard for the company to replace that person or find a new person. Again, the entire process need to be replaced. But in the case of physical capital such as a machinery, it is easy to replace. It is easy to make profit from the physical machinery or physical capital. So that is what is said in this column. Just read through it. Some other details are also given. Okay, the concept of physical capital is the base for conceptualizing human capital. Okay, there are similarities between two forms of capital. Okay, there are also dissimilarities. Human capital and economic growth, as we have said in the initial part of the chapter. How is human capital related to economic growth? Okay, who contributes more to the national income? A worker in a factory or a software professional? We know that the labor skill of an educated person is more than that of an uneducated person. That the former generates more income than the latter. Okay, an educated person generates more income. So, which in turn results in a better growth in the country. So, economic growth means the increase in real national income of a country. Naturally, the contribution of the educated person to economic growth is more than that of the illiterate person. Okay. If a healthy person could contribute or provide uninterrupted labor supply for a longer period of time, then health is also an important factor in the economic growth. Thus, both education and health, along with many other factors such as on the job training, job market information, and migration, increase our what economic growth or individuals' income generating capacity. This enhanced productivity of human beings or human capital contributes substantially not only towards increasing labor productivity but also stimulates innovations and creates ability to absorb new technologies. Education provides knowledge to understand changes in the society and scientific advancements, thus facilitate inventions and innovations. Similarly, the availability of educated labor force facilitates adaptation of new technologies. Okay, all these aspects are related to what? All these aspects are related to education. Okay, education provides skills that you need to acquire or need to use in the industry, so which in turn lead to creative thinking, relate to you innovating the new products in the market. All these things are central aspect is what? Education. So now we will look at the draft policy of the new education policy of 2019. It states India aspires, what is our aim? It aspires to take its place beside US and China as the third largest economy by 2030 to 2032. Okay, India is the sixth largest economy now, and we will reach 5 trillion economy in 5-7 years, taking us to fourth or fifth position. By 2030 or 2032, we will be the third largest economy at over 10 trillion. Our 10 trillion economy will not be driven by natural resources but by knowledge resources. We have not looked ahead into the implication of being the world's largest economy. It will be a totally different environment. Ecosystem forces us to think differently, and achieving this milestone will be ramifications all across the country. Okay, there will be lot of development. Most or large sections of the population will be affected, and they will be uh, part of the growth procedure. Okay, so India has a knowledge economy. Now, what is a knowledge economy? That can be answered in this box. Indian software industry has been showing an impressive record over the past 2 decades. See, when we discussed about the reforms from 1951 to 1990, in that chapter we discussed. See, even though our primary and secondary sectors growth was not that much, but our tertiary sector, that is in our service sector, there was a huge growth in our country. So India's knowledge economy, that is our software industry or IT industry, all this aspect has a huge growth potential. That is what is said in this box. Entrepreneurs, bureaucrats, and politicians are now advancing views about how India can transform itself into a knowledge-based economy by using information technology. There have been some instances of villages using email, which are cited as examples of such transformation, like e-governance is being projected as a way of the future. The value of IT depends greatly on the existing level of economic development. Do you think IT-based services in rural areas will lead to human development? That we can discuss in the comment section. Okay. This policy suggests that human capital information in India will move its economy to a higher growth trajectory. Okay, human capital and human development. Now we will look into the differences of both. The two terms may sound similar, but there is a clear distinction between them. Human capital considers education and health as a means to increase labor productivity. Human development is based on the idea that education and health are integral to human well being, because only when people have the ability to read and write, the ability to lead a long and healthy life, they'll be able to make their choices which they value. Human capital treats human beings as a means to an end, an end being the increase in productivity. In this view, any investment in education and health is unproductive. It does not enhance output of goods and services. In so in human capital, what it says that, see, actually in the health sector or in the education sector, the investment takes time to give returns. It won't give a spontaneous return. Okay, so the human capital aspect says that it is worthless. It is not that much important to give uh, give attention to health sector or education sector. While human development perspective, human beings are ends in themselves. Human welfare should be increased. through investments in education and health, even if such investments do not result in higher labor productivity. Therefore, basic education and basic health are important in the as a person, considering a person, he needs to have a basic understanding of the education system, basic understanding of maths, science. All these aspects are needed as a person. Okay, and basic healthcare facilities should be available, be accessible for these people also. Okay, that is what human development is about. Okay, in such a view, every individual has a right to get basic education and basic healthcare. That is, every individual has a right to be literate and lead a healthy life. State on human capital formation in India. We are looking at the state's role in human capital generation. Okay, we have already learned that human capital formation is the outcome of investments in education, health, on the job training, migration, and information. Of these, education and health are very important sources of human capital formation. We know that India is a federal country with a union government, state governments, and local governments. Okay, the Constitution of India mentions functions to be carried out at each level. Accordingly, expenditures on both education and health are to be carried out simultaneously by all the three tiers of the government. Okay, now we will be discussing about education sector as a whole in this chapter. Before we take up on education sector, we will look into the need for government intervention in education and health sectors. Why it is necessary that government should involve itself in these aspects. Okay, and we do understand the education and healthcare services create both private and social benefits. It is of the reason for the existence of both private and public institutions. Both public and private institutions in the education service markets are there. Okay, expenditures on education and health take substantial long-term impact. See, I have told you earlier, the investments in health and education. So suppose we build a school for say 3 crore rupees, but that 3 crore should to be returned as a whole with profit. It takes time, a long time, and this impact cannot be reversed easily. Hence, government intervention is essential. There should be a safety check, safety factor. For instance, once a child is in, there is another example, admitted to school or healthcare center where required services are not provided before the decision is taken to shift the child to another institution, substantial amount of damage would have been done. Moreover, individual consumers of these services do not have complete information about the quality of services. Okay, and their cost. In this situation, the providers of education, see, in some schools we can see the quality of education would be bad, and some parents would know it, and they will try to change their children from that school to that particular school to another school. Okay, but there are also parents who don't know this. So what institution keeps a check on these kind of schools or these kind of health institutions? Okay, in this situation, the providers of the education and health services acquire monopoly power and are involved in exploitation. The role of government in this situation is to ensure that the private providers of these services adhere to the standards stipulated by the government and charge the correct price. Okay, or correct services. And we have lot of institutions or lot of ministries under it. We have Ncert, ICT. When in the health sector we have ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research. All these are there when we are looking at to both these sectors. Who keeps a check on this kind of activities? Okay, now we look into the education sector in India. Okay, now we need to calculate how much the government spends on education. Okay, this expenditure by the government is expressed in two ways: as a percentage of total government expenditure, and second, as a percentage of gross domestic product, as a percentage of GDP. Okay, the percentage of education expenditure of total government expenditure indicates the importance of education in the scheme of things before the government. The percentage of educational expenditure of GDP expresses how much of the people's income First one is about government expenditure. Second one is about how much people's input are there in the development of education in the country. Okay, we need not go to the statistics. Okay, and we need to find how this money is raised, how this revenue is raised for the utilization of education purposes. Okay, elementary education takes a major share of the total education expenditure, and the share of the higher and tertiary education at the least is the least. See, in our education system, the base classes are provided more attention rather than the college life or polytechnics and universities. Okay, though on an average, the government spends less on tertiary education expenditure per student in tertiary education is higher than that of the elementary. This does not mean financial resources should be transferred from tertiary education to elementary education. As we expand school education, we need more teachers who are trained in the higher education institutions. Okay, therefore, expenditure on all levels of education should be increased. Okay, importance is that all these levels should be equally treated, or all these should be give attention should be given. And another aspect of raising money for the educational reforms is that government of India has also started levying a 2% education cess on all union taxes. The revenues from education cess has been earmarked for spending on elementary education. In addition to this, the government sanctions a large outlay for promotion of higher education and new loan schemes for students to pursue higher education. So all these aspects, like we have a cess on 2% cess on all union government taxes. So even though all these kind of aspects are there, there are some faults in the policy making of the government that we can visibly see in the implementations. Okay, and while looking at this table, we can see uh, adult. It is basically the various sectors, the use stage, adult literacy stage. It is, we have seen it is an increment stage. It was 61 or 62% in 1990, and it increased to 68, then 69 in 2011, in 2017 to 2018 it became 82. While on the female case, it is also increasing when the adult literacy rate and primary completion rate, it is also on an increasing scale. But we can see there is initial years there was a decrease in the, there is a gap between female and males. Okay, but it remained, it became equal once, almost equal once it reached 2017 to 2018, and also same in the case of youth literacy. Okay, now education achievements in India. Okay, that is, we can say about this table. And future prospects, education for all still a distant dream, though literacy rates of both adults as well as youth have increased. Still, the absolute number of illiterates in India is as much as India's population was at the time of independence in 1950. When the Constitution of India was passed by the Constitutional Assembly, it was noted in the directive principles of state policy that Constitution that the government should provide free and compulsory education for all children up to the age of 14 years within 10 years from the commencement of the Constitution. Now that is a question whether we have achieved it or not. Gender equity better than before. The differences in literacy rate between males and females are narrowing, signifying a positive development in gender equity. Still, the need to promote education for women in India is imminent for various reasons, such as improving economic independence and social status of women. Now, women are working in most of the firms. Okay, their input is seen in our economy. Most women are living independent lives. Okay, all these aspects are seen. Okay, also because women education makes a favorable impact in fertility rate and health care of women and children. Therefore, we cannot be complacent about the upward movement in the literacy rate, and we have miles to go in achieving 10% adult literacy. Unemployment among associated youth is highest. Okay, now we are looking at a few concerns. Okay, uh, these are the statistics. You just go through it. can be asked, which can be asked in the questions, like when in the mains, if you want to input the statistics, and particularly when it is given in the NCRT, you can always quote it. Okay, so in the conclusion part, we can see the economic and social benefits of human capital formation and human development are well known. The union and state governments in India have been earmarking substantial financial outlays for development of education and health sectors. The spread of education and health services across different sectors of society should be ensured so as to simultaneously attain economic growth and equity. India has a rich stock of scientific and technical manpower in the world. The need of the hour is to better its qualitatively and provide such conditions so that they are utilized in India. So, recap: investments in education convert human beings into human capital. Human capital represents enhanced labor productivity, which is an acquired ability and an outcome of deliberate investment decisions with an expectation that it will increase in future income sources. Investments in education, on the job training, health, migration, and information are the sources of human capital formation. Now, concept of physical capital is the base of conceptualizing human capital. There are some similarities as well as dissimilarities between two forms of human formation, capital formation. Investment in human capital formation is considered as efficient and growth enhancing. Human development is based on the idea that education and health are integral to human well being, because only when people have the ability to read and write and the ability to lead a long and healthy life will they be able to make other choices which they value. Okay, proper decision making ability should be created for the people. The percentage of expenditure on the education on the total government expenditure indicates the importance of education in the scheme of things for the government. Okay, government is having a predominant uh, what importance is given for the expenditure on education, that is said in this chapter. So with this, I think you guys were able to follow some of the aspects that are involved in the human capital formation. So this is kind of important for UPSC, especially when we are talking about human resource development. All these are kind of like the future of our country. So do read this chapter again so that you would be able to understand it better. I have given just a brief idea of what the chapter is about. So until next time, we see. God bless you all. Jai Hind.